Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into a fascinating review of a book that promises, well, a modern take on some pretty ancient wisdom. It's Darius Foreau's Focus on What Matters, a collection of Stoic letters on living well. Our mission today, to really unpack this comprehensive review, we want to pull out the core insights, maybe some surprising facts too. Help you quickly figure out if this book is, your next essential read, especially if you're looking for a shortcut to being well-informed and maybe managing all those daily distractions.
Yeah, and what's really interesting here is how the review positions it. It's seen as this very accessible entry point to Stoicism, which for anyone less familiar is that ancient Greek philosophy. It's all about focusing on what we can control, like our thoughts, our actions,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of accepting what we can't. So this book aims to make these pretty profound ideas practical for everyday life. We'll dig into its format, the main themes, and importantly, take a critical look at the strengths and weaknesses that readers and critics pointed out.
Okay, let's unpack that. The review mentions a unique format. It says 70 short letters, each a self-contained essay. What does that actually mean for someone reading it? And what ancient text inspired this particular structure?
Well, it's directly modeled after Seneca's Letters from a Stoic.
Ah, Seneca.
Right, exactly. Seneca was kind of groundbreaking in distilling complex philosophy into these personal, digestible bits of advice. Thoreau is trying to do something similar for today, so it means you get these big ideas, but in a modern, accessible package. They're, digestible even if you're busy. You don't have to read it straight through.
That connection to Seneca is interesting. So, given that letter format, what are the core themes? What kind of Stoic wisdom is he really trying to get across?
The main things are, well, controlling what you can control, obviously, protecting your inner state, your peace of mind, also seeking resilience, living with purpose. It pushes for things like daily reflection, mindfulness,
Mindfulness, okay.
and importantly, learning to say no. Saying no to distractions, things that pull you away from what matters. It's about finding calm in the chaos, really.
So if you're someone who wants to learn quickly but thoroughly, and maybe you feel that sense of information overload, this focused, bite-sized thing sounds pretty appealing, doesn't it? Like it's designed to cut through all the noise.
Absolutely. That seems to be a big part of the appeal.
Okay, so let's get into what makes the book really shine, according to the review. It flags several strengths. First up, this bite-sized and flexible nature. How does that actually help someone who picks it up? What's the benefit?
It's just really good for reading in bursts. One letter might only take a few minutes, perfect for a morning thought or a quick break. And because it's nonlinear, you can literally jump into any letter. You don't lose anything. There's no real plot to follow. Makes it super low commitment.
Right, you don't need to remember what happened in Chapter 3 to understand Chapter 10.
Exactly. Pick it up, get a thought, put it down.
Okay, beyond the format, the review talks about high practical value. Were there specific exercises or actionable things that Thoreau offers that stood out?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It gives simple, sort of actionable exercises, things like setting boundaries around your mood.
Mood boundaries. Interesting.
Yeah, or consciously working to detach from what other people think of you. Learning to let go when expectations aren't met. These aren't just, vague philosophical ideas. They're presented as concrete tools, the kind that can actually lead to those aha moments in your daily life.
Those sound really useful, but that one, detaching from others' opinions, that's notoriously hard, isn't it? Does the review suggest Thoreau offers a specific method for that, or is it more of a general reminder?
From what the review says, it sounds more like pragmatic encouragement, not a deep dive into the psychology of it. He probably frames it in that classic Stoic way. Recognize what you can control versus what you can't.
Right.
You can't control their opinions, only how you react. So it's practical advice rather than deep theory.
Got it. Practical, not theoretical. And the tone, described as modern and relatable. What gives it that feel?
Well, he uses personal anecdotes quite a bit, stories from his own life to sort of ground the philosophy in everyday situations. And a lot of readers seem to find that really engaging and makes the philosophy feel less, abstract and dusty, more like advice from a friend who's thought about this stuff.
Okay, so that relatable tone, it probably also helps encourage self-reflection, right? Does the review mention how it helps people get clearer on their values or maybe build habits like intentional living?
Yes, exactly. The review suggests that because it's so accessible, it makes it easier for readers to actually apply the ideas, to look at their own lives and think, okay, how does this apply to me? It encourages that self-awareness and making more deliberate choices day to day, taking it off the page.
And it seems like reader feedback really backs this up. Lots of comments about it being crisp, a refreshing reminder, a powerful guide for resilience. You see Amazon reviewers saying things like, a book I will read many times. In that Goodreads quote, by celebrating other people's success like it's your own, you grow stronger. Clearly, it hits home for many.
It definitely seems to resonate on that practical, motivational level for a lot of people.
But naturally, no book is perfect for everyone. And this review is pretty balanced, pointing out where focus on what matters might fall a bit short. What were the main criticisms?
One of the big ones mentioned was its shallow execution.
Shallow execution.
Yeah, there's a critic quoted who put it quite bluntly as something like, the execution is painfully lacking in depth, never really evolving beyond surface-level realizations.
Okay, shallow execution. What does that actually feel like for someone reading it? Can you maybe give an example? Like, how might it touch on an idea but not go deep enough, maybe compared to a more hardcore Stoic text?
Sure, that's a good question. So imagine Thoreau talks about controlling your reactions, which is, core Stoicism.
Right.
He might give a simple tip like pause before reacting, which is useful. But a deeper dive, say, reading Epictetus, would go into the nature of your first impressions, the whole philosophical idea of judgments, and maybe practices like negative visualization to fundamentally change how you perceive things, not just manage the reaction after it starts. Thoreau gives the what, but maybe less of the deep how or why.
Ah, I see. It gives the tactic, but maybe not the underlying philosophical framework that makes the tactic really transformative for some.
Exactly. It leaves you wanting more if you're looking for that really profound shift.
Okay, that makes sense. The review also mentioned possibly redundant advice. What was the issue there? Inconsistency.
Yeah, apparently some letters can feel a bit contradictory, or at least send mixed messages. Like one letter might warn against consuming useless information, really urging focus.
Stay focused.
But then another section might encourage broad learning, taking in lots of different ideas. So readers have pointed out this sort of tension. Are we filtering heavily or learning widely? It can be confusing.
Right, that could be tricky to navigate. And beyond the actual advice, some readers apparently found the personal stories
Yeah.
a bit basic, lacking emotional depth.
That's right. It's the flip side of being relatable, perhaps.
Huh?
For some, those anecdotes make it accessible. For others, maybe readers looking for more complex reflections on life's challenges, the stories might feel a bit simple or not emotionally sophisticated enough.
So bringing it all together for you, our listener,
Yeah.
who is this book really for? And who might want to look elsewhere?
Well, the ideal reader seems to be someone new to Stoicism, looking for that practical, bite-sized wisdom. It's also great for busy people, people who prefer short, focused reads over, say, tackling Marcus Aurelius directly.
Right.
And maybe just anyone looking for simple reminders to be more deliberate, more focused amidst all the daily noise. It's a really good on-ramp.
Okay, an on-ramp. And conversely, who might not find what they're looking for here?
Probably readers who want a deep philosophical exploration, or someone looking for advanced Stoic techniques. Also, if you want really tightly argued, consistent, maybe academic points, this probably isn't the one. If you want the original sources or a book building a really complex system, you'd look elsewhere.
Makes sense. The review summed it up with a final verdict across different areas. Can you give us the quick rundown? Writing, depth, practical value, impact.
Sure. So the writing, clear, modern, easy to digest, philosophical depth, considered introductory, not super profound, practical value, rated high, lots of actionable tips, and the overall impact, generally seen as uplifting, grounding, good for reflection.
So the bottom line from the review seems to be, Focus on What Matters is a well-structured, digestible introduction to Stoic ideas, offering clear prompts for daily reflection and focus. Its brevity, its approachable style that makes it useful for busy readers. But if you're seeking deeper analysis, you might be left wanting more philosophical richness.
That sums it up pretty well, yeah.
Now, if this deep dive sparked your interest, the review did suggest a few companion reads, books exploring similar themes like focus and essentialism.
Right. If you like Thoreau's practical style, you might check out Essentialism by Greg McKeown. That's all about cutting out the non-essential to focus.
Good one. There's also Make Time by Jake Knapp and John Saratsky. Very practical daily strategies for focus. Easy stuff to implement.
And The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. That one guides you on finding and really making time for your absolute top priority, simplifying things.
Great suggestions. So wrapping up our look at Focus on What Matters, it seems clear it really excels as this practical, maybe bite-sized entry point into Stoic thinking. even if it might not satisfy someone craving, truly deep philosophical waters.
Yeah, it serves as a great starting point, or maybe just a useful refresher course on living intentionally in our very busy world.
Definitely. An excellent entry point or that refreshing reminder.
This whole discussion, especially that point about inconsistency, the useless information versus broad learning, it raises a really interesting question for you, our listener. How do you personally navigate that? When you get conflicting advice from different sources, especially when you're trying to stay informed but also focused, how do you synthesize that? Decide what to filter out and what to take on board. It's a constant challenge today, isn't it, in this flood of information?
That is a great question. Something to definitely ponder as you continue your own journey of discovery.